Welcome to Ripstop on the Record, the podcast for makers, by makers, where we talk about all things MYOG. Brought to you by Ripstop by the Roll. I think it's good, right?
Yeah, I think that was a good take.
Hey everyone, welcome to Ripstop on the Record. I'm Jameson.
And I'm Avery.
In this episode, we are talking about the six components that you need to have on hand at all times. Our guest today is none other than Trent Hughes, the main brain behind Athletipack, a custom pack company that's known for its modular strap system. The secret behind the Athletipack is a series of components that help create tons of modularity without really risking any comfort. So Trent was a perfect person to have on because he's had to rigorously test all these components and figure out how to put them in a design and make them work and turn them into a production company. So Trent was a perfect person to have on here to discuss some of these components. We're going to talk about 6 primary ones, but we mentioned different iterations of all of these. So this goes for anybody, whether you're a product designer, whether you're just an at-home MYOGer in your basement. These are things that you should have on no matter what.
Before we get to the main part of the episode, we do have a few updates. First, I want to thank everyone who put in an order during our not Black Friday sale. This was a huge week for us, and we can't thank you enough for your continued support. Next, we have our kit sale coming up that will start on December 2nd, which is Cyber Monday. More information about that sale will be coming in the next few weeks.
So there's a new piece of content out, and that has everything to do with thread and needle. We get asked about thread and needle recommendations all the time. It's one of the most common kind of pitfalls or worries that people have. So we took all that information, and Carter and I have been able to put together, hopefully, the ultimate guide to answer all of your questions. So if you go to our blog, it's called the Ultimate Thread and Needle Guide. You can also find a link through social media, but this will give you tips on everything from what to look for, what the best, most versatile combination of those things would be, as well as there's a whole spreadsheet that we made that has number 1 and number 2 recommendations for every single fabric that we have. So one thing I would say is that the answer isn't quite what you think it is, but also at the end of the day, there is one set that we use in the makerspace pretty much for everything. So if you want to see what that is, hop over to that blog post and check it out.
As always, please let us know what you think about the podcast. You can leave us a review, write us an email, send us a message on Instagram, whatever you want. We would love to hear from you and hear what you think about the episode. So let's get on to the episode.
Hey, Trent, welcome to the episode.
Hey, Jameson, glad to be here.
I'm glad that we finally got you on. Avery and I have been talking about having you on for a little bit now and looking for the right time to bring on this components episode. So I'm glad that we finally made it happen.
Yeah, me too.
So for people that don't know, Trent, you are founder and owner and kind of designer of the Athletipack, which we'll talk about some today in a kind of in conjunction with our other topics. But what's new and how's Athletipack doing?
Sure. So for the listeners who don't know anything about Athletipack, we're a custom backpack business and we're based in Suffolk, Virginia. And so basically what makes us unique is we have a modular strap system. So think of like a fanny pack sized, I'm showing it on the screen right now, fanny pack sized backpack. You know, it has the traditional U-shaped zipper, you know, like the JanSport backpacks that we use, when we were growing up. It's basically the same backpack. It's just in a mini format, like a fanny pack size version. And so we have 4 variations. We have the regular Athletipack, and then we have the Athletipack Lite, our minimalist version. And then we also have larger versions, such as the Athletipack Tactical with a secret pocket on the back right here. So, yep. So those are our variations. And and so the strap system that makes us unique is it's elastic. And think of it like a harness system. And it just wraps all around your body. It prevents the pack from bouncing around. It's very thin. It's very lightweight. And then if you just want to wear it like a traditional crossbody bag, you can just use the non-elastic strap like this, and then just wear it like a traditional, shoulder bag. So that's Athletipack. And I guess, is there anything else you want me to go into for Athletipack?
Well, I know that you're a designer at heart and you love to optimize what you got. So, do you have any new features on the Athletipack, or what have you kind of added in the most recent edition, most recent models?
Yeah, great question. So since I last saw you at Trail Days, one big addition we've made is we've added buckles to our bottle holder.
Oh,
So
okay.
before, the bottle holder looked like this, where it's just like the elastic and the cord lock like this.
Yeah,
But now we've added the buckles, and so this allows you to strap larger items or irregularly shaped items like a tripod or something.
sure.
So it's a bit easier to use. And so that was from feedback from customers, just like, I have this irregularly shaped water bottle. I
Yeah,
can't really slide it through the side. So, yeah, I was like, it should be easy enough. Just add buckles, components.
yeah,
It's the spice to the MYOGer's life.
absolutely.
And yeah, so that's one of our recent additions. And we've also added an RFID liner. So basically, it's like a silver infused fabric, and we use it as a liner on the front pocket of our Athletipack, so that if you put your wallet or your credit card in there, if you're out abroad and you're worried about people unauthorized, scanning of your credit card or your personal information, that would keep you protected. I know that's a pretty big thing in the market nowadays, is this RFID concept. So we incorporated that. And yeah, and on our running vest, I remember at Trail Days, you gave me some feedback on the adjustment mechanism, and we can go into it a little bit now, or later when we get into the components themselves. But it's basically a cord lock and a shock cord, and allows you to pull it with one hand without having to use both hands. So it's easier for the user experience. So
Yeah,
that's what's new with that photo.
Trent, sometimes I forget that you have several, or at least a couple other products other than your Athletipack, because you have those 3 editions of the Athletipack, the Athletipack Light and the Tactical and whatnot, but then you also have that running vest, and I think you also released a backpack this year too. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. This is our full size backpack. It's pretty simple. It's just like a regular U-shaped backpack. I took inspiration from one of the pattern makers. I'm drawing a blank right now. I'll remember it, but that's kind of where this pack was inspired from. And yeah, it's just like a pretty standard running backpack. Has a little vest style side straps as well. But yeah, and eventually I do want to come out with like a full size hiking backpack.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea with that one is that we want to bring back the sleeping bag compartment, but also
Ooh.
keep it like a minimalist version. So think of like the Hyperlight Contour 30, just like a super basic, front
Sure.
stuff pocket, 2 side pockets. I want to figure out how we can maintain that minimalistic design, but also incorporate the sleeping bag compartment. So that will be an interesting challenge.
Yeah, that sounds. It's kind of like the challenge that most people have with fanny packs and small packs with water bottles as well, which I really like how you've had like this addition or this take on as. Our friend Matt from Red Paw also has like this kind of creative take on being able to carry water with a fanny pack design. So that like the sleeping bag compartment seems like something kind of similar, where you're working with this like bulky, heavy, awkwardly shaped and size item, size and shaped item, and trying to get it in or on your pack in some way. Do you take any inspiration from like what you've done with the Athletipack and how you've attached irregularly shaped items to that, to what you're going to do with your sleeping bag compartment?
Absolutely. Especially for like bottom straps. I know a lot of companies, have this similar design where they have straps that you can
Sure.
attach like a sleeping pad or a tent to the bottom of the pack. And surprisingly, this shock cord is quite durable. And
Yeah.
I haven't done enough testing yet. I mean, maybe for a through hike, it may be questionable, but literally just using the same design with the buckles, I don't see any reason why not. That wouldn't work for strapping a sleeping bag, a tent, that sort of thing. And for the sleeping bag compartment, I'm still kind of thinking about how exactly we will access it, because a zipper, you know how complicated curved zippers can be.
Yeah.
So figuring out how to do that, and then also maintaining that front pocket, because it'll have to have some sort of scooped bottom.
Sure.
That will be an interesting challenge. Or maybe it doesn't even have to open up all the way, and you can just kind of stuff use the compartment as like a stuff sack, and just kind of stuff it through. And maybe it doesn't have to open all the way. Just some challenges that I'm thinking about for
Yeah.
the future variations. Yep.
I listened to, I think it was John Z's podcast on backpacking light not too long ago. He was one of the founders of Palante back in the day, and then started Metaphysics Gear. but I think most of his packs, like one of the main features that he likes to add on, because he was one of the first people to do the bottom pocket in general, many years ago. But now he's the guy that does. He has like a zipper on the bottom or pocket where you can access the pack from both the top and the bottom. And that's a really interesting feature to me. I've not personally sewn that into anything, but the concept is definitely there. Where I've thought about that problem in other capacities or with other answers, I guess. Like the most recently, I made a pack. It's like a through hiking backpack or style pack where I made a central zipper that works two ways though, so you can like unzip it from the bottom to get in, or you can unzip, because I really like having my pack kind of like clamshell open. I
Mm-hmm.
just don't like how like with a top loading pack you have to like take everything out and kind of like yard sale your stuff to get to something at the bottom. And obviously it depends on how you pack, but when I'm going camping, like I'm going to unpack my bag so that I can get to climbing gear, I can do other stuff. So it's kind of cool to hear about other ways that people are thinking of solving their problems for how they want to pack or how they want to do their trips.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So the gist of today's episode is that we want to talk about components. And you're kind of a component expert in a sense because of the harness system and because of the packs that you design. You need to use components very intentionally. So I guess the first question I have for you, how I want to tee up this whole topic, is why are components so important to the Athletipack and really to, I guess, to all design? People in fashion like to say like shoes make the outfit or textures make the outfit or some stuff, some things like that. I feel like for us in an MYOG, it's kind of components. Components can really make or break the project and make it look professional or make it look more beginner, but also really impact the feeling. So why do you say what makes components so important on the Athletipack specifically?
Yeah, so components are important because it allows packs to be adjustable, it allows them to fit different body shapes, and it just makes everything more custom to the individual. So basically, without any components, the only thing you can really make is just a cylinder with just like a knapsack basically, and the straps, the shoulder straps are sewn in, so you can't adjust them in any way. You can't use the sternum strap because you don't have buckles. So it's just like it really makes the project because it allows you to make it adjustable and allow it to, make it yours and make it creative. And so what makes it important for Athletipack is, I mean, obviously we use a lot of cord locks. So our adjustment mechanism is based on shot cord and a cord lock like that. And, the whole webbing system, as I mentioned, was modular. And of course, to make it modular, we have to use buckles. And so all of the straps are connected by buckles. And yeah, it's just like an integral component. And, we have all kinds of different, systems. So like you have the webbing here. And so, yeah, it's just like it's super important for Athletipack because it just allows it to work essentially. It would just be a backpack with no straps essentially without having the components to do so. So, yeah, that's why it's super important.
Are there creative or unique component applications that you've seen over the years? Just like someone has pulled out, maybe it's a component you're used to seeing, but you've never used it or you've never seen it used in this particular way.
Yeah, definitely. I actually saw on Chicken Tramper Ultralight Gear, they had like a unique use for their water bottle pouch or the shoulder strap that you put on your shoulder strap, the water bottle pouches that you put on your shoulder strap. They just used the fanny pack and they put the shoulder strap or the webbing on the fanny pack. They put the water bottle holder through it, and then they used the Slik Clips to cinch it down. And so basically, when you're wearing it like a crossbody, like the fanny pack like a crossbody, and the fanny pack's on your back side, on the front side you have your water bottle holder up front. And so I thought that was like a really unique way of using your strap on your fanny pack to attach a water bottle sleeve. And I'm sure it's not just the C-Tug water bottle holder. You can use pretty much any one that uses the Slik Clips. And Slik Clips are another amazing thing you should have in your arsenal because they're just so versatile. And another interesting thing I've seen is on Pact, like PAKT. That's one company, and they made like a modular strap system using the G hooks like this, and they used something along these lines. This is actually from Adventure Expert. These little sternum strap loops, and so Pact used basically a system like this, where they used like a G hook and then something like this to make their straps modular. So I thought that was like a really unique use case for something like this. And I've seen all kinds of really interesting side compression straps as well. So like on a backpack, you have your side compression straps. I've seen a lot of unique uses for using just like a single shock cord, because you have to like complete the loop somehow. And so I've seen people just like tie it in unique ways, use all kinds of unique components like this one, where you have like a webbing through this side and then shock cord through that side. And I've seen all kinds of really neat ways to get creative with your side compression. So those are some unique things.
I really like that idea from Chicken Tramper that you were talking about, because I don't know, I very much, Carter teases me all the time that I've made a ton of fanny packs. It's like the number one thing that when like friends of mine that see that I make my own gear, like, I don't know, I've made enough fanny packs where I've designed some cool ones, and they're like, oh, can I get one from you, or can you make one for Christmas or whatever? So I've made tons of my friends' fanny packs and stuff, and I like to iterate on them. And figuring out how to carry water, like we were just talking about, is always really interesting to me. So that concept is kind of cool, where you can like wear it like a sling bag and then attach the water bottle pocket to the front, because it also balances out the weight nicely, right? Then you have like this weight on the front and the back, which is cool. That's a really interesting idea. So I want to make sure I understand this correctly. So seems like on the strap, like on the waist strap of the fanny pack, if they were wearing it as a crossbody, there's like a daisy chain sewn into that, so you could
I don't
attach a
think
water
it
bottle.
was. I would imagine that it would have some slippage problem if you were like moving really quickly.
Okay.
In the setup that I saw, I didn't quite see. You can't really look at the details of it to see if there was a daisy chain sewn on, which I think would be a great idea, by the way. But I'd imagine that the shoulder strap pocket has elastic on the back as well. So if the fanny pack has a buckle, for example, you can unbuckle that, put the strap through the water bottle sleeve, and then use the Slik Clip, and then maybe that would be enough to keep it secure enough for when you're walking or hiking up a mountain, but maybe not running. That may be a little too much.
I see. Okay, so it like kind of went over. It slid, the water bottle pocket slid over the waist strap and then attached to like some loops that were already on the waist strap.
That's what it appeared to be.
Got it.
I didn't see exactly, but I thought that was just a really cool concept to bring up.
No, that is a really cool idea. I just made a fanny pack for a bike packing trip that I went on recently, because I really wanted to wear it like a kind of like a sling bag, but I wanted like a 3-point system. So like if you think about like a normal crossbody going like over your shoulder, then going under your ribs, I really wanted that second or that third strap, if you will, that goes kind of perpendicularly across the other side of your ribs, just because when I was cycling, I wanted to have some stability. But I really like, especially on a bike trip, I like having like one bag stay on me, because then if I like leave my bike to go into a store or to go, it's called a bio break into the woods, I want to be able to like have certain things on me and not leave them on my bike. So what I did is on that waist strap, or on the crossbody strap, I did sew like a small, maybe like 6 inches of daisy chain out of just like the really small grosgrain. I think it's 3/8 inch grosgrain, because then it can still feed through the buckle, right? It can still like it adjusts as normal, because that grosgrain is so thin, it can still feed through the buckle. But that acted as like my mounting point. Then I just used the ultralight kitty clip to attach that to like the waist strap.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I should try that. I think that's really cool that you used a thin version of the webbing so that you could just loop it through, like use it as regular when it's not attached. And then when it is attached, I mean, there may be some limitations when it's attached, obviously, but when it's not attached, it's basically not there. So I think that's a great idea.
Because there's some daisy chain like on the underside of the fanny pack there as well. So that third point strap totally comes off, and you can wear it like a normal fanny pack. And because the grosgrain's thin enough, you can cinch that buckle down and tighten it down quite a bit, and then make it into like a functional fanny pack that you that bypasses the daisy chain altogether. So, but all these things that we're talking about are all kind of functions of components, and a word that I like to use that's totally fake is componentry. It makes it sound more fun, I think.
Yes.
But one other question before we get into kind of the 4 must-have components that we'll talk about here are there common hacks or maybe tips that you have for people to get the most out of their components?
That's an interesting question. So I guess, what do you mean, like unique uses for certain components, or I guess what do you mean by hacks? Can you describe?
Yeah, I guess what I mean is, like most things, whether it's choosing fabrics or it's building, it's patterning, there are certain certain perils that people have to get the most out of them. So like a lot of people mention cord slipping through cord locks, or they can't get it to secure appropriately, or things are difficult, or the things that you do on your Athletipack or other jobs or other projects that you run that help get the most out of the component, or the component function as well as possibly, I guess.
Yeah, okay, I understand. So I guess the first thing to do is to understand at least the basic specifications of the component. So like for example, what's the material made out of? How strong is it? You know, for example, on the cord lock, there's like a certain, this is actually something I overlooked when I was ordering cord locks as a variable to consider, is the springiness, the strength of the spring. So some of them, you know, you have to pinch really hard to get it to work correctly. Like you have to pinch this to open up the cord. And so like you want to make sure that it's applicable for your design. So like, for example, on the running vest, on the first prototype, we use that single pull mechanism that I was talking about. And if your cord lock doesn't have a strong enough tension, or I guess clamping power, you could say, then it's just going to undo itself when it's under a high tension. Like you just start pulling it and then it just undoes itself. So that's something important to know in terms of, I guess you could consider a hack, is trying to really understand the specifications of what the component is rated for. So like the kitty clip, for example, it's a small ultralight clip, and sure, that it could work for something like a top strap, for example, like a backpack top strap. But I mean, there may be some durability concerns. Like I really wouldn't trust this little baby buckle for a whole through hike, for example, and you're strapping all kinds of stuff on top of it. I mean, if you have like 100 pounds of load, I don't know if this would be a good idea for it, for that use case, for example. So just really understanding the specifications, or as much as you can, specifications of the component itself, so that you're making the correct choice for the use case.
I think as a user, like a tip for MYOGers and people making it home, look at what you see on companies, even cottage companies, what they're using on their gear. It's hard to get, even for us. There's not. So for like fabric testing, the ASTM is the basic standard for all fabric testing, where they're going to test hydrostatic head and tear strength and tensile strength and UV transmission and color fastness to light and like all these different tests, right? There's not like a base, like one standard method of testing components. So like for buckles, it's not like we get a data sheet whenever we buy a new buckle that has the tear strength and tensile strength and like slippage load, or like there's nothing like that for buckles. So the best way for you as a maker, you can't just see a data sheet online and say, okay, cool, this thing's really strong. I think the best way for you to check it out is to see what companies are using. We'll go over. I have some components here that I'll talk about in a minute, but just look at other companies. If a company has trusted it, you can trust they've probably put thousands of miles on that thing to test it out first, and then they have thousands more, hundreds more out in the field with customers being used. If they're using it, you can probably trust it. So I think that's probably your best bet to double check. One day I'd love to be able to get, just the customer side of marketing in me wants to have like, tests for all these things where we can say like, hey, this buckle has a 50-pound break strength. But also at the same time, like that number is pretty ambiguous for people too. Like even if it had a number,
Right.
like nobody knows what break strength actually means, unless you're doing that daily.
Yeah, and to add on to that, I mean, I think that's a great idea. Just look at what the big companies are doing. I mean, they've tested the material, so you want to. That's a good base point, you could say. But if you want to take things into your own hands, one thing I did to test the breaking strength of the kitty clip is I just tied two. So I sewed in like a webbing loop there, and then I put like a hand loop, so you had quite a bit of leverage. And I took one end, took the other end, and I took me and my sewer, and we cranked as hard as we could, and we actually could not break it. So I think that was probably a good sign. I mean, who knows how long, there's time under tension. If we maintain that load for an hour, maybe it would break. But, that was just kind of like, there's a way to somewhat DIY it. And just kind of like a side thing for people, like for our water bottle holder here, the loops are actually grosgrain ribbon. And I know some people have been questioning, it's like grosgrain ribbon, it's probably not that strong. But from our testing and we've never had a failure in the field yet. I mean, if we start getting failures, then maybe we'll pivot and change and go to just regular webbing. But this grosgrain ribbon, it's some tough stuff. If you sew through it, like you go back and forth with a high quality sewing machine like 4 or 5 times, and you try and pull it, it's not going to break. So that's just a little, don't be afraid to use some grosgrain ribbon for some loops if you're not going to be putting 100 pounds of tension on it, for example.
That was the next thing I was going to say too, is a lot of people get fearful of like the ultralight stuff and the smaller stuff because there's this fallacy in our head that smaller or lighter is less durable. That fallacy is there for a reason because it can be true sometimes. But these like components and component accessories like narrow goods, webbing, grosgrain, these things are really cheap. I mean, like you can get buckles, you can get packs of these buckles for like a couple dollars. You can get 12 of them. You can get individual buckles for less than $1, unless you're buying Fidlock buckles, which are fantastic and I would recommend it, but those are going to be a couple bucks per buckle. It's still not like an expensive endeavor. You're not spending $50 like per, like you can get a couple extra, give it a test run. There's no risk in like really testing it out. And then to your point about like the grosgrain, shock cord, a lot of these things, like the biggest companies. So if you think about companies, and like I think about them in 3 different categories. There's like cottage companies, which are people making stuff out of their homes or in these really small but really like boutique environments. Then there's post cottage companies that come from the cottage world, but now they're going into like a more sizable production. And the cottage company, that's like people like Trent, maybe Nashville Pack, onto Ultralight, Almonds Right. Those are cottage companies. Post cottage companies are people maybe like Z packs that started out in a garage but are now in a full scale production size. Maybe Seek Outside. And then there's like the corporate size companies, which are more so like the Hyperlights and Gregory and Osprey, where they have sew shops elsewhere. They're doing a lot of their own design, but they're like the owner's not sewing them or not involved in like the manufacturing process at all. Like it's a much broader. I say all that because the biggest companies we say this all the time. The reason that people want to do MYOG and why cottage companies want to start making stuff is that the biggest companies make things for a median user, but they're taking thousands of metrics, right? When Hyperlight makes a bag, they're making that bag for thousands of people to purchase that they're not going to be able to influence as strongly, right? If it's an REI, people are going to see that bag that have never been through hiking before, and they need to cater somewhat to that person. Whereas a cottage company like Trent, he's going to talk personally to almost every person that purchases one of these bags. So he can make something more specific. So use that filter when you start to make some of these things. If you see Gregory, if you're like, oh, they've never used a buckle this small. Yeah, because they're probably assuming someone's going to put 75 pounds of hiking gear, which is awesome. If that gets them outside, that's rad. But you don't have to base your design off of what they're doing entirely.
Yeah, and I'm sure that presents some warranty issues as well. Because I mean,
right.
I'm such a small amount. I don't make tens of thousands of bags, so I can handle some percentage of. I mean, we don't have many failures yet, but I mean, when you're at that scale, you have to kind of over-engineer things to prevent any failures.
Exactly. Okay, so let's get into kind of the thick of it here. I want to talk about 4 must-have components. So I've got some here. We've prepared Trent, and we're going to talk about 4 must-have components that you need to have in your sewing room or in your makerspace or whatever it is that you're doing your gear. You need to have these on hand because we think these are like must-have things. So Trent, why don't you go first? What's the first one you got?
Sure. All right. We'll start with simple and basic. Buckles. Gotta have buckles. They're just so versatile. There's so many different types. You got 1/2 inch, you got 3/8 inch, you got full inch, and some of them are adjustable. This one's actually one of my favorites. I know you guys sell it on your website. It's a 3-inch size ultralight buckle from Duraflex, but you can use 1/2 inch webbing with it. It's fine. And it's adjustable on one side. This is great for sternum straps. And yeah, just like some variables to consider for your buckles is how easy is it to use. If like for a sternum strap, for example, this one is pretty easy. It's big enough that you can get a firm grip of it and open and close it. The kitty clip for a sternum strap, I mean, it doesn't have any adjustment mechanism, so you can't really adjust it at all. And it's a little small, so it may be kind of hard to use for a frequently used buckle. But for a less frequently used buckle, this is a good option. And that's my first one.
Okay, so really, I just got to pause you real quick. I also had the same buckle that Trent had. So it's the ultralight side release buckle here. If you're watching, I'm going to hold it up. If you're not watching, then I'll link these all in the description. But the ultralight side release buckle is my go-to. I mean, like we have this, I redid the component drawers in our makerspace recently. So we have like one drawer that's literally just all ultralight side release buckles in different colors, because now that we release them in colored components, you can get this in blue, orange, green, coyote brown, black, glow in the dark, maybe white. I don't remember. There's several colors, all to say, but these things are like my go-to buckles in many ways, because they also come in different sizes. There's the side release buckles that come in 3/4 of an inch and full inch. These are like dual adjust. When I built that like through hiking backpack I was just talking about, I used this as the waist belt. Kind of has like a 2-point pivot system, because I like how you can pull it from both sides. But yeah, the side release buckles, super nice. Would recommend in many ways. One other buckle I do want to plug is the Kross Buckle. I like this one a lot. It's got kind of a cool profile. It's really like, it feels low profile, like all the extra stuff's kind of like beveled out. But yeah, the Kross Buckle, it's Kross. Again, I'll link in the description. This is a nice buckle. It comes in different sizes, has one adjustable side, one fixed side. It's also curved, which I think is kind of neat. It's nice for like fanny packs, where this is going to be going around like your body, your waist, your shoulder, something. It's got a little bit of a curvature to it. It's kind of cool. But yeah, those are 2 buckles that I would plug.
Yeah, great recommendations. 100% totally agree. So my second component I'm choosing is the cord lock. Obviously, I'm kind of biased. Cord lock is kind of like key to our business, as I showed with the adjustment mechanism here.
Yeah.
And you can also use a cord lock for making like an adjustable shock cord system. So basically what I did is I took a key ring and I put the cord lock, or I guess the shock cord, through the key ring, and I looped it in a way that you can actually use the cord lock to adjust the length of it. So this is kind of like a little bit of a secret sauce for Athletipack, you could say, that you could incorporate into your own designs. You just basically use this, and you can just loop it through something, any loop, and then you can use this as, maybe like a detachable compression strap, for example. And so cord lock, as we discussed, the spring strength, the size, some of them have different grippiness factors. So like this one is a smooth cord lock, but some of them have like a grippiness to it. So it's easier to get a tactile feel for it.
Yeah.
So those are just some things to look out for cord lock. So that's my number 2.
Trent,
and you can also use it for, go ahead.
Trent knows, because we talked at Trail Days about my love of anchorable cord locks, but the 2 cord locks I want to mention. So this is actually kind of perfect, because Trent, I grabbed 4 components. I assumed I knew what you would grab, but I don't actually know. So it's kind of fun that we picked 2 of the same things right off the bat. 2 cord locks I want to plug. One, I love anchorable cord locks. Not in all situations. They're not right in everyone, but as much as I can, I love them. So 2 cord locks I want to mention that I use a ton on gear. Yeah, Trent, which one is that? The micro anchorable cord lock, or which one is that?
I think this one's actually it's a Wujin one. It's not one of your guys's.
Okay. Yeah. There's a lot of really good anchorable cord locks out there, and more that Carter's working on getting, and that we will get one day. Just these things take a lot of time. But so the first one is this micro anchorable cord lock. It's really small. It fits the smallest 2 sizes of shock cords. I'm sorry, I'm really bad with fractions. I don't remember the size of shock cord that we have sometimes. I just like think of like small, medium, or large. But this one also comes in tons of colors. It's like the micro cord lock, just like with this little wing over here on the side that you can put webbing through. What I do is I fold the 3/8 inch webbing and then put it through there. I've also totally flattened out paracord, like gutted paracord, and then put the paracord through there and then sewn that in. There's a lot of different ways you can attach it. But the reason I love anchorable cord locks is because of what Trent was talking about earlier, the one-hand adjust. You can just pull the cord that's going to a cord lock, and if it's anchored, then it will tighten down. I love to do this on stuff sacks sometimes. Like Almond's Right does a really cool job with this with a couple of their stuff sacks, because you can just pull it apart, or you can tighten it, and it kind of feels like it's automatic. I like this for chest straps. I like this for compression on the side of a pack. There's a lot of ways that I like this. The other cord lock is the 2-hole anchorable cord lock. I use this one a ton because this little webbing slit down here is really easy to work with. It fits like the bumpy webbing. It fits some of the grow grain. This thing is awesome. So like I made this front bike bag where there's some shock cord going across the top. This is the last piece where like it kind of all comes together and it anchors down nicely, and you can just pull it, and Yeah, this thing's awesome. The 2-hole anchorable cord lock. One thing that is kind of like what Trent was mentioning, 2-hole cord locks normally have a stronger spring tension or a kind of stronger load than a 1-hole. Makes sense. 2 holes, there's more friction feeding through, which means it's grabbing the cord more. It's very logical, but just something to keep in mind depending on what you're looking at. So yeah, anchorable cord locks, huge fan. We don't carry these, but I can hear Matt Evans from Redpaw talking in the background, talking about the Siberian cord lock. The Siberian anchorable cord lock. It's spelled like Cyber, I think. I've played with one. It was awesome. We just don't carry them yet, so I don't get to play with them as much as I'd like. But that thing is really great, and I've seen good results from that one.
Definitely, yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't even know those existed. Because the anchorable cord locks, what I do is I just put the webbing through the cord lock itself, and that can be a little bit challenging.
Yeah.
And you also have to fit in the shock cord as well. So if you have like a thicker webbing, it's going to make it more difficult to put the shock cord in. So I love that feature of like a dedicated spot to put the webbing in to make it anchorable. So I'm glad you brought that up. And my third component, must-have component, is going to be G hooks. So G hooks are very diverse, and there's lots of different varieties of them. You have gated G hooks. This one is very popular on not just cottage companies. You see this pretty much everywhere. Like a lot of like duffel bags have it with the detachable straps. And this is just like the gated version. You have different sizes. This one is 1 inch, but I know that there's one with a 1.5 inch as well. So, and we use this for our non-elastic strap system. So it looks something like that. So that's just definitely been a must-have for me. And you can also use the non-gated G-hook versions like this. This one is a 1/2 inch, I believe, adjustable version. So this is good for a light-duty top strap for a backpack or some sort of application where you have a little bit of tension on this. Because a downside to G-hooks is that they're not like buckles, and that even if there's no tension on them, a buckle doesn't fall apart. But with the G-hook, it has a tendency to kind of slide out, especially if it's a non-gated version. So those are kind of like the two variations, are the gated and non-gated. So, but very versatile, very useful thing to have in your arsenal.
So this is where we start to deviate, which I love because I want to incorporate more components here. On our website, you can get left-handed G-hooks and right-handed G-hooks. That was a small addition that we made last year. Really just changes which way the hook goes. It can be nice depending on where you're placing these on your pack to always have the hooks go down or always go up or something like that. So for example, a lot of hunting companies put G-hooks on the side, so you can like do these massive compression systems, and kind of they have different hooks. So if you always want the hook going down, then you would want like left-handed G-hooks on one side or right-handed on the other, or vice versa. So yeah, those also come in all sorts of colors. But yeah, G-hooks are kind of cool. I want to talk about your point, Trent, about how they have to stay under tension. Do you have a favorite application or favorite system to use these in? Just because they have that limitation, but I do find that sometimes when G-hooks are the right thing, they're the right thing. And there's nothing else that works that way because of how you can just like completely remove them from a situation, unlike a buckle where you always have that receiving side of the buckle always sewn down someplace.
Yeah, I would say probably my favorite application is a top strap for a backpack, or a Y strap, where you put it through the webbing. And for those applications, again, you want to keep in mind what load it's going to be in. So if you're doing like a through hiking backpack, you probably don't want to use a 1/2 inch, small light duty G-hook for that. It'll probably break. And I've actually done some testing on it, like the brake test that I was talking about earlier. We did the same thing for the G-hooks. And this one is about 3/4 of an inch. And what we did is we tested a 1/2 inch webbing through it. And so what happened is that when we started pulling it, since the webbing wasn't fully, I guess it was smaller than this hole, the G-hook actually kind of tilted like this, and then it started putting extra strain on it. So that's one thing to consider when you're using your G-hook, is you want to make sure it's the right size webbing, or that you're using the right size G-hook for the right size of webbing. Because if you're using a smaller webbing for the G-hook itself, it's going to put extra strain on it, actually, because it's going to slide around and it's going to tilt it and just provide additional forces. So that's one thing to keep in mind for the G-hook. But I would say probably the best application would be a top strap. And if you're using something heavier duty, just use a metal one, like aluminum or steel, carbon steel.
That is something that I'm glad you mentioned that, Trent. Something I want to make sure everyone knows here. There are certain components that you can sort of fudge the diameter or the thickness of what you're working that will work just fine. An example of that is like this 2-hole anchorable cord lock. You can use any size shock cord in here and it will be totally functional. Obviously, a thicker shock cord will have more friction going through the holes, but for the most part, even the smallest shock cord, everything will work in here. That is not the same for G hooks and buckles. Within reason, there are always caveats, especially in the MYOG world. But like for buckles and G hooks and the next component I'll talk about, you want the correct size. So like this is 3/4 of an inch. You want 3/4 of an inch grosgrain, 3/4 of an inch webbing. You need to line those things up correctly. Nothing is more of a pain, and you won't run into more issues than if the webbing or the grosgrain or whatever you have doesn't fit the component appropriately. It won't ruin your project. I'm not saying that. It's not that dramatic. But like if you don't know already, then when you're online, you're like, I could probably get away with this. Just do what you can to make sure it fits correctly. Use the recommended cord lock or shock cord, webbing, grosgrain. Get the right size. It'll make your life way easier.
For sure, yeah. And yeah, you can I like to err on the side of going too big than too small, because if it's too big, you can always just sew in like a smaller webbing on it.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if it's a project for yourself and it's not for a customer. You can just kind of like, use the loop and just sew through the loop and, sew a different size. So yeah, that's some good tips. And then the last component, I actually want to choose something a little bit different and a little bit unexpected, is the zipper pull tabs.
Oh, yes.
Yep. I find these to be super, super important. I know a lot of people get away, especially in mass production, these big bags, they don't use any zipper pulls, which is surprising to me because I find that it really adds to the experience of using a bag, especially when you're like for a bag like this. Most of the time I'm not like looking down at the bag and trying to open it like this. It's kind of like, I'm here, I'm talking to someone, I want to grab my stuff super quick. And if I don't have these pull tabs, it's going to make it so much bigger of a challenge to use it. So this is definitely a game changer. I like these ones because they're cheap, they're easy. You just simply loop it through. But I know you guys sell this reflective version, and I'm a huge fan of this. This is for one of my more premium backpacks. I use this type. But you can also use this nifty little paracord version. This one again is really good for tactile. I actually use this on the tactical version of the Athletipack because it just gives you a different tactile feel for the secret pocket versus the regular. So so that's my little unconventional component is zipper pull tabs. Got to use them. Don't skimp on them.
I love that for two reasons, Trent. One, I'm a huge fan of the slider pull. I think I like things that are tactile and that you can identify by feel and that like feel very like resolute and feel appropriate, like you can grab, you're like, yes, that is the zipper slider pull. I like that a lot. And so we have a couple of different pulls. There's like the tiny pull, there's the beam puller, which has like a whole like U shape. I really like the ones that have like a curvature to them. It's like a crescent because it's just very easy to like get your finger onto something that has like this shape to it. But the other thing that I like about that you mentioned, Trent, is cord ends. I think cord ends add so much quality to a product, and you can change the tactile nature. There's all different cord ends, from really small ones, the ones that have like little bumps on them, so you can like feel. It's like very, it's kind of like this, like a high grit sandpaper feel. Like you can just identify things by the feel, which is a really cool feature to add to your point. Like if you have a secret pocket or if you have a pocket that is completely different from the rest, then you can change the feeling of that pocket. So, without sight, you can see like, yep, this is that pocket. I know the feeling of the zipper. That's a really cool feature to add and just a fun thing that you can add into your designs.
100%. Yep. So those are my favorite. I would say I have more like honorable mentions, but if we have time for that, we can go over. But if not, I'm excited to hear yours, Jameson.
Yeah, the cord and cord ends is another piece that you need to get the diameters right. Just so you know, like if you if you put a cord that's too thin for the cord end, it will slip out.
Yeah,
I had that happen so many times. Like that's another one that you just got to get. You have to go a little bit bigger, but also too big and the cord end won't fit at all. So like it is kind of, you gotta feel right into the right space with those. But yeah, that's another one you want to get right. Okay, Trent, I've got I guess, at least two major ones that I want to show you. One, I use this more than probably more the number of components that I've used. This is probably the highest now because there's never one per bag. But this is the slim strap keeper. I
A
love these things. I hate it when my straps are just like flapping everywhere and they're just kind of like just extra stuff moving about. I don't like it touching me. I don't like it tickling me. I just don't like them just like waving around. So the slim strap keeper, this comes in, I think, 3 different sizes. There's 1 inch, 3/4 of an inch, and maybe half an inch, I think. But yeah, this thing is awesome. I also like how you can add it onto a pack afterwards. It has this little split gate on this backside, so you can add it to. I've added this to like packs after the fact that I didn't even make. I added them just because it didn't come with them. But the reason this is so great is that think about a fanny pack or even like a backpack where the straps are going down off the shoulder straps go down and attach to the bag. When there's nothing on, there's no slim strap keeper or strap keeper at all, then those things just kind of flap around. They just hang down, they just dangle, they blow in the wind, they touch you, they whatever, they get caught on stuff, they get stuck in your car door or whatever. The slim strap keeper keeps them all in line. And I love that. I think it looks more clean. I also just think it makes for a better experience and you can adjust more easily because the strap's in one place. Plus it just cuts down on you getting it caught in stuff, catching it on a tree, something like that. It is added weight. A lot of people would say this is unnecessary because they want to cut their straps down to the right size and then keep them that way. If you're that type of person, this may not be for you. It is adding 1 gram per thing, I guess, maybe 2 grams. I don't know. It's extremely light, but you are adding weight. It is adding bulk. So if that's not your style, then I totally respect that. But if you want to make a project look really professional and kind of put together, I think the slim strap keeper does that really nicely.
100%. Yeah, especially for ladder locks where your shoulder strap adjustment or the hip belt. Those are 2 great applications for keepers.
Exactly. This is one that you can kind of get away with. So I love our bumpy webbing that fits into this, like the ultralight side release buckle that fits into this one, like the small bumpy webbing, but that is 3/8 of an inch webbing. And our slim strap keeper only comes in half an inch. So it's a little bit bigger than necessary, but it still works. Like this is one that you can get away with something that's a little bit bigger. It still looks really good and it still does the job. But yeah, slim strap keeper, 10 out of 10, frankly. There are some other different versions. Like I know we keep bringing him up, but I know his products pretty well now. Matt from Red Paw, he has a different slim kind of strap keeper concept where it's just like a loop. Like it doesn't have the hook here. It's just a loop that you can stick it in. That also works great. It's just really preference and what you're able to find and what works for you. Okay, so this next component is definitely like a premium component. It's by far the most expensive one that we carry, but it's also the one that I keep in my car, I keep in my bike bag, I keep in the garage. I have a couple of them everywhere. And just one other caveat before I mention it, I don't get these for free. I have bought all the ones that I have, just in case that impacts anybody. That is the Austere Cam Buckle. I hope you know about these already. If you don't, then
I
I'm about
do.
to blow your mind. Have you
They are
used these
mind-blowing.
before?
I have. They're mind-blowing. They're incredibly amazing quality.
They're just so nice. And I don't say that just because we carry them, but they're actually really nice. Uriel is his name, founded Austere. He posts all the time on their Instagram about how they make them, like the CNC machine, the sandblasting, the cleaning, the painting. He updates on every step of the process. So you're actually seeing how these are made. And maybe that suckers me in more, but I find that really fascinating to see. The cam buckle is really basic. It is a camming buckle. You stick webbing through it and it holds it. It's extremely basic. It is $25 buckle, I think, maybe $22. It comes in 2 or 3 sizes. I want to say there's 1 inch, 3/4 of an inch, maybe half an inch. Don't quote me on that. It comes in a couple sizes, a couple really cool colors. The reason I keep these everywhere is they're extremely helpful. Like I said, I keep one in my bike bag at all times so I can strap something, a jacket, a water bottle. I help somebody else out. I've used this as a bike lock before. It's not really a bike lock, but if I just want to lock my bike outside of a gas station for 2 minutes, then I feel pretty comfortable. I have like an air tag on my bike basically. So I just throw this on there so somebody can't technically just walk off with it. I keep it in my car so I can strap stuff to the roof or in the back seat. I can strap wood together or whatever. And I also just have always a couple in my garage just because I keep them hanging up on the pegboard all times. These things are amazing. The quality is immense. They do ridiculous amounts of testing on these too to make sure that they are loaded appropriately and that the spring works. They have very, very few failures, if any. And the plus side about getting them here, which I love, is that I've changed the strap size. Like I've done like a 14-inch strap. I've sewn like a 24-inch strap. You can just change the webbing on these things. It's just the buckle. You can change what goes in this loop down there. So yeah, I'll stop loving on the austere so we can talk about other stuff. But these things are really epic.
100%. Completely agree. And before we roll into the next section, I do want to go over organizing the components. Do you mind if we take?
Yes, I love that. No, please do.
Yeah. So this is like my little organization setup. I got this at Home Depot. So it's really exciting when you go to Adventure Expert and you see all these different, you see everything, and then you order all of it, like 25 different components, and you're like, oh, I could use that for my sternum straps. Oh, I could use that for, side compressor straps. And then you get all these and you get the package. You're like, okay, now what do I do? You can put them in like little plastic bags, and that's what I did initially. But then, you're going through all the plastic bags and you have to mark all of them to keep them organized. So keeping them organized is definitely a challenge. So I will recommend something like this, where you can just keep all of your stuff just ready and easy access. I think as I said, I got this at like Lowe's or Home Depot. But these are, I think they're made for fasteners, but you can use them for components as well. So that's one thing I recommend. And then another thing is I got this actually at the Goodwill. And this has been a game changer for organizing my setups for making back panels for Athletipack. So for Athletipack, we have all kinds of different size webbings and different buckles, 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, full inch, grosgrain grain ribbon. So we have all kinds of different types of webbing. And so keeping them organized has been a challenge. And just having this setup has been great. So, I have my 3/4 inch there. I got my 1/2 inch there. And then I got my full inch there. Buckles. So it's just quick grab and go. So those are some inspiration for those of you who, if you get too excited about all the different components you get, those are some ideas to keep your shop organized.
Yes, that is such a good advice. Like I mentioned earlier, I just have cleaned out like our entire makerspace, and actually just this week I finally did all the materials and fabrics and stuff because it was getting completely out of hand. I mean, I'm such a sucker for free fabric that somebody would be like, hey, this is a botched print that didn't go great. Do you want to keep it? I'm like, absolutely. That thing looks cool. I can use 4 inches of that. So just the amount of fabric we had was foolish. But when I read to the components, we have like every component that we carry virtually we have in the makerspace. That's not everyone's situation. So I'll give one advice for people that don't have like 300 components as well. But for us, like that drawer system that Trent just showed, we have those from Uline. They're like maybe 40 drawers. It's a big compartment for those of you listening. It's like the little small, I think they're about 4 inches deep, 1.5 inches wide, 1.5 inch tall drawers. I think there's 40 drawers per unit, and the whole unit is maybe 2 feet by 2 feet, just kind of like this plastic drawer system. We have 3 of those, and what I did is I broke it up kind of per category. So one is just things that relate to cordage. So that's all shock cords, cord ends, cord lock, stuff like that. One is all webbing. So the webbing one is the slip lock, the tri-glides, the webbing keepers, the buckles, everything that has to do with cordage. And then one is all zippers. So that's all zipper pull tabs, sliders, and then miscellaneous stuff like our loop alien hardware and some other things like that. So that's how I broke it up. I know at Carter's house in his sewing space, he has plastic, metal, webbing, and cordage. So like miscellaneous plastic hardware, metal hardware because of hammock stuff like cinch buckles and things like that. And then like webbing and cordage to help organize kind of odds and ends through stuff like that. So if you don't have one of those massive ones, then he just has like small tackle box stuff that you can organize things that way. But I'd really recommend finding an organization system that works for you. If you can, you don't have to spend a whole lot. You can spend $20 on organization and it'll make your life way easier.
Definitely. I got these. This one is from Ollie's. This one's from Goodwill. Like you can find stuff really cheap. You Facebook Marketplace. Literally just like a plastic bin. You can find those everywhere. So you don't have to get too fancy and expensive.
Yeah. And so part of why we wanted to do this episode was that for those of you that are looking to grow your makerspace or that you want to optimize the space, if you get some of these things that Trent and I are talking about, like if you find a cord lock that you really like, stock up on those. Find a couple buckles or like one buckle that comes in multiple sizes that you really like, get a bunch of those. Organizing your components gets hairy when you have 17 different types of buckles that all comes in different sizes, right? But if you're not making I don't know, if you're not making stuff in production like Trent is, and if you don't have to have every single component that we carry, like I do in the makerspace, then you can choose the stuff that you want. That just makes organization way easier for you, and you can really optimize. And that's kind of why we wanted to build this list: is get a good shock cord or a couple of good shock cords, a couple of good buckles, a couple of good accessories. You don't need to have 300 components. It is really fun, but you don't have to have all that stuff. This is why we made that short list, so you know, like, what are the things that you need to have. So, Trent, we have this kind of flagship question. And I'm actually going to ask you both because this is your first time on, and I want to give you a chance. I know that you know it because we talked about it before. The first one I ask you, because it is the first one I want to ask is one that relates to this episode, which is, what component to you is missing on the market or that you wish existed?
Okay, great question. I would say if I had to like make my dream component, I'm a huge fan of the kitty clips. So if they could make this kitty clip but make it single adjustable, so this would be perfect for a side strap, a side compression strap. So like a lot of side compression straps just use a ladder lock, or they use a system where you can't detach it. But I love having the convenience of this being detachable, so I can loop things through, maybe like clothes if I want to let them dry, or if you have like a big bulky item like a tripod or something, you can just unbuckle this and then loop it through in a way that it's not going to move around too much, and then just cinch it closed like this. And I just absolutely love how light this buckle is, how strong it is for light to medium applications. And just having this buckle but make it adjustable, that would be a huge game changer. I would love that. That would be my dream component. And just kind of like another thing that would be nice, or at least more of on the market, would be G hooks of this style, but just more gated versions of this. I find that gated versions of G hooks are kind of tough to find. I don't really find many of those. I mean, this is like the only gated hook that I can really find on the market. I can't really find any gated hooks like this, at least easily.
Yeah, that's true. That is a really good observation. Because I think about the gated Siamese clip, is it? I think that's what we call it. It's not quite the same thing, but even like that's one of the only other gated versions I can think of at all. Great plug, Trent. I like that a lot. Cool.
Yep.
Well, Trent, it's always a pleasure talking with you. Thanks for spending some time with us today and talking about components. This has been really fun.
Thank you. Yeah, and I've been listening to the podcast for 3 years, so it's really been an honor. Thank you for having me on. I hope I provided some value to listeners. And if you want to reach out to me, you can just reach out to me on my website, athletipack.net. You can use the chat function on there or shoot me an email. And as a special for this episode, I created a discount code. If you use RBTR for 15% off on anything on our website. So I just wanted to give that out to all your podcast listeners.
That's sweet. Thanks so much, Trent. Yeah, I'm going to put that in the description as well. If that's cool with you, I can drop it in there and let people know to go check out Athletipack. Athletipack on Instagram. Is that right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Cool. And athletipack.com.
Yep. .net or .com. I own both, so we're good.
Oh, fantastic. Cool. All right. Please go check out Athletipack. I have one. I've taken it fly fishing. Tim has one. We've gone fly fishing together. We've worn it. It's a really cool product. Support these cottage companies that we have on. And Trent, until next time, it's been great talking to you, and we'll chat soon.
Likewise. Have a good one.